Hi, everybody. It's Kanesha from boldlivingtoday.com, and welcome to Wednesday Club. So excited to be here with you. It's our penultimate episode of 2019, our second to last. So, Wednesday Club is all about creativity and learning from and successfully navigating life transitions, untangling from things or thoughts that keep us small, and building and amplifying our boldness. So before we get into this week's episode where I talk about favorite books, I always like to go over the responses, questions that came in from the previous episodes. So let's dive into that. So on episode 14, we were talking about how to do the second part of the calendar audit, which was really interesting. And we were talking about streamlining, having a real good focus, finishing strong, looking at your data from the current year to inform what's coming up for you in 2020 and how to plant the right seeds and how to kind of get a firm idea of what you want your goals or the proper extension of your goals to be going into the new year. So a question that came through from Colorado, and it said, "Hey Kanesha, I really love the calendar audit series. I had never thought about looking at my calendar in that way to see how I spent my time. I always just figured that I was too busy doing this and that to look at it. But what I learned from doing the calendar audit is that I need to say no to more things and that I need to really focus on scheduling time to work on my projects and things that are important to me." I think that's so super important. A lot of times we get super busy doing things and we just feel like we're always on this breakneck schedule, or we're always doing stuff that's for other people or that's related to our people we're caring for or our careers. And we do not allow enough time for ourselves to take the moments to focus on something that's important to us, to actually get it into the calendar that you're going to exercise, or that you're going to work on your book chapters, or that you're going to hire a coach, or that you're going to see people you don't normally see. So it's super important to take a glance at what you're doing and how you've spent your time so that you can do a better and clearer job of scheduling for what's to come. And, managing time is challenging, it's difficult. And for a lot of us, we are at the mercy of other obligations. So all our time is not our own. So it's really difficult to stay on top of things. So I think doing the calendar audit is super important to help you figure out what's best for you on your own timeline and something that's very customized. Okay. The other thing that came through was, "Hey Kanesha, thank you so much for Wednesday Club. I like to listen to it at carpool when I'm picking up my kids. You talked about the focus protocol and your guided journal, Focus on What Matters. So I bought one. Yay!" I've been really using the Focus on What Matters guided journal to plan for the holiday season, because usually I am so exhausted and hating everybody by the time Christmas arrives. What I learned about myself is that I try to make too much magic for everybody else and not make enough magic for me. The guiding questions at the end of each month are super important for me to really take time to remember that I matter too. Absolutely. A lot of times we care about the people around us. We want things to be great for them. If we have the time and space, we want to offer them a lot of energy, but it's okay to pour that energy back into yourself and to focus on things that, are, magical in its own right. And it doesn't have to just be the holiday season, but something magical around everyday living, about the projects you're trying to do, around the company you keep, around the relationships you're trying to build with your spouse or partner, relationships you're trying to nurture with your own children. So yeah, it's really important to have the right priorities and have the right time management and the right structures around that so that you can focus on what really matters. So thank you for your book purchase. I really appreciate the support, and I'm glad that the tools are helping you. Okay, one last question and feedback that came from the Bold Thinking community for Bold Living Today. "Hey Kanesha, I really enjoyed..." Oh, okay. So this was not from a Wednesday Club episode, but it was from a short video I did about helping your teens and your college students get ready for the end of the semester. So this was not necessarily a Wednesday Club episode, but it was a broadcast. Hey, Kanesha, I really enjoy what you said about creating communication norms for the end of the semester. I think a lot of times, because my son is a junior in high school, I feel like he should have all this stuff on lock. But it's a new semester for him. It's a new set of classes, a new set of teachers, and a new set of responsibilities. So it really helped me slow down my thinking and my expectations of him so that I could be a better support and understand what he needs. And it also made me remember the essential expectations you outlined in a different episode. So, in addition to creating new communication norms around the support that he needs and what I can actually offer without macromanaging, we also wrote our essential expectations of ourselves going forward until the new year. That's awesome. I mean, as parents, a lot of us feel like we're supposed to know how to help our kids in every aspect. And sometimes helping them is really about helping them explore what they need. And while we're still exploring what we need, it's okay to be learners together. It's okay to be a grown up and a skilled beginner. It's great to teach your young people how to be skilled beginners. Like, you've done this before, but now it's in a higher stakes opportunity, or it's more intensive. And it's okay to be unsure about something, but let's see what worked before and let's build from there. So that's awesome. And I'm so glad that was helpful. As far as the final exam support, there are 3 videos in the series. So 1 is out, and then 2 additional ones are coming this week. So look for those on Kanesha Baynard Coaching Facebook, and then also on Instagram. You'll be able to see that information there, and also YouTube for boldlivingtoday.com. So yeah. So what I want to talk about today in regards to Wednesday Club is kind of something that fills me up, something that's part of my fun time hobby stuff, and that keeps my creativity flowing and keeps me learning and just keeps me getting bolder, building my boldness and amplifying it. So I am completely obsessed with going to book talks. I love going to concerts, and I love going to book talks. So I try to go to as many as possible. I live in the Bay Area. I'm south of San Francisco. And, there's a lot of opportunities to go see authors and speakers in San Francisco, which is kind of tough with the traffic. And I don't find the public transportation so great. I used to live in Chicago, so I'm used to the L and having the trains run all the time. But nevertheless, I do like to make the jaunt up to San Francisco, or if they have something in my local area, I try to go to as many book talks. I'm typically interested in nonfiction writers. I read a lot of nonfiction. I was part of a book club for a while, but then my schedule was too hectic to make it sometimes. It just seemed like every time there was a book club meeting, my husband would be traveling, or I would have had another event in the evening, and I try not to have too many back-to-back evening events because, my priority is to be home with my son when he needs to be in the evening, in case he wants to play games or have help with homework and things like that. So, I have to be really strategic about getting my fulfillment with going to book talks. So I just want to highlight the 3 book talks that I went to this year that I really enjoyed, and the books that went along with that. And then I have 2 additional books that I really liked. So 5 books in my discussion today. All right. And then, there's no affiliate links for any of this. This is just what I loved and what I was excited to do. Okay. So in late September, I had the opportunity to hear Margaret Atwood talk about her new book, The Testaments. I don't know. Is anybody watching The Handmaid's Tale? I have read The Handmaid's Tale at least 3 times, and I've read most of Margaret Atwood's books. And so this is the latest, and I'm telling you, that woman is amazing. She's sharp. So I went to this book talk. It was in San Francisco, and the conversation was moderated by Kelly Corrigan, who I wasn't that familiar with, but she was very funny. So obviously people are really into her type of humor, and I enjoyed that as well. And what I really liked about, this book talk, other than just being a fan of Margaret Atwood, was she was talking about her writing process, and a question came about, do you look at political things that have happened to incorporate into your books? How come your books seem so timely? Why does everything seem so current, even though it's a different year after you've written these books? And she was just so witty. I don't know if you know, Margaret Atwood is Canadian, and she just talked about the history of civilizations, of countries, of nations, and how, we go into these cycles and people don't really know. And I'm paraphrasing, so these might not be direct things that she said, but these were my takeaways. But people do not pay close enough attention to history and what goes on. And so when things start to happen, these trends and these things are being repeated and they start to happen, people don't seem to notice because they don't connect the dots. And, as a super analytical person, I was like, yes, Margaret, that's absolutely true. So this book is intense, it's dystopian, but I find it to be very realistic, unfortunately. And, I like to be challenged in my thinking. I like to hear different perspectives. I like to keep my critical thinking skills fresh. And I feel like this book, along with The Handmaid's Tale, along with the series on Hulu, really challenges all of us to think in different perspectives. And not so much about whether you agree or disagree with things, but, what are we willing to allow? What are we willing to sacrifice, sit back and just let happen, and things like that. So I enjoyed this book, and it's fiction. So this was one book that was fiction on my list because everything else is nonfiction. So The Testaments. Okay. And so then in October, I went to a book talk and I got to see Ijeoma Oluo speak about her book. And this book talk was moderated by W. Kamau Bell. A lot of people listen to his, I think he has a podcast. I've seen his special on Netflix, but this was a very interesting conversation. I live in the Bay Area and people like to talk about how great the Bay Area is because it's so diverse. And I don't disagree with it as diverse, but, sometimes we need to talk about what we mean by diverse and what kind of diversity we are celebrating, because all diversity is not celebrated. And I feel like there's an echo chamber and an absence of celebrating, people from the Black African diaspora. And so, when I hear people say, oh, isn't it so great? It's so diverse. I have some different experiences in this area, not all negative, but different experiences that really speak to what it means to be a Black person living in the Bay Area, and especially in Silicon Valley, where, there's been some questions about where I live, and how am I able to live in this area and have the life that I have, which is very annoying to say the least. But as a bold thinker, I love to educate. And I think this book does a really great job as answering some questions that some people would not believe that people of color receive, but it happens. And, we don't want to be the full experts on racism because we didn't create the racism, but we have to deal with it and go through it. And then I have two great friends who are not Black women, they're white women. And I just mentioned that I went to this book talk and they totally said, we're getting this book, we're going to have our own little book study so we can be great friends to you. I didn't ask them to do that, but they love me and they want to be good allies and actually walk the talk. So excellent book. They have it in paperback, but I just really enjoyed the candor of this, and I felt like some of the things in the way she said them is something that I would really, really say myself, like especially chapter 11, why can't I touch your hair? I can't even tell you all the times I have to deal with people wanting to touch my hair or the hairs on my children's heads, and how I've had to snap and check some people. So excellent book. So check that out. Okay. And then the third book talk I went to, and this is more recent, this was in November, and I got a chance to see Clifford Thompson talk about his book. He's an essayist. And this book talk was moderated by Julie Lythcott-Haims. And if you're familiar with her, she's a New York Times bestselling author. She wrote How to Raise an Adult. And then she also has a memoir called Real American. And then she's writing another book. But she moderated this talk. And this was very interesting to me because part of the reason that I went to the book talk is because of her. I really love her work and I enjoy the messages she's putting out. But specifically for Clifford Thompson, in reading and researching about him a little bit, he kind of had an awakening of, what it means to be a Black man in this society in America, and how his life was so different when he was growing up, and how he didn't really experience racism because he grew up in a very protected Black bubble, you know, his neighborhood where he went to school and things like that. So, you know, I was just kind of like sitting there listening to the conversation between Cliff and Julie, and just how she was drawing out some of his experiences and how he was being honest with it. But at the same time, it was just very different than I've heard, at least in my circle of Black people, speak about racism and prejudice and microaggressions and things like that in current society. So that was eye-opening. And again, like I said, like when I go to these book talks and I read different books, I'm not always looking to agree with everything, but I definitely want to learn about different people so that I can grow as a person. And I like to connect with people, whether I agree with them or not. But it's really important to, you know, learn about perspectives that are different than your own so that you can grow and you don't become stagnant. But this is a really easy read, and he's a great writer. But yeah, we definitely were raised by different people. We definitely have had some different experiences. And I think that he should have some kind of, I don't know if this is in the works, but these are just ideas that popped into my head as I was reading the book. Like, I think he should lead some panel discussions so they can explore some of the topics in this book and with people with similar perspectives as he has, and a little bit different. I would love to be on that panel to share my thoughts and ideas, as I always want to share my thoughts and ideas. All right. So, interesting book. I'm going to send this to my mom just because she likes to read, and two, I think she and I will have a lot of fun things to talk about. All right. 2 book talks I didn't get to go to, even though I wanted to, but I still got these books. I was super excited to get Amanda Seale's book, Small Doses. She has a podcast. I love the podcast. I listen to it. My daughter listens to it. So that gives us something to discuss, to digest. I definitely want to go to the Smart, Funny, and Black show. So hopefully I can make it to it if it comes into the Bay Area. I didn't get to go to this book talk because it sold out before I was able to get a ticket. Bummer for me. But this is a great book. I love the artwork in it. First of all, it's just really beautiful to look at. I am not a millennial, and I'm raising a daughter who I think is a late millennial or another generation, but it's really interesting for me to learn some different things that this particular generation is dealing with that I don't really have to deal with right now in my life. Some of the things are applicable to me right now as a woman, as a person of color. Other things are like, oh, okay, so that's what the young people are dealing with right now. And I think that's pretty interesting. I love Amanda's candor. I like her writing style. I like the way she talks. I like how she just goes there, you know, and doesn't sugarcoat it. I like that she centers Black people and centers Black women in her book. It's super exciting for me to not have to guess who and what she's talking about. So that's pretty cool. The other piece is, this is my takeaway in reading this, you know, when you're typically a high achiever, you're really self-possessed, self-actualized, self-aware, and you just really speak your mind in an open way, people sometimes don't receive that well. They do not think that is appropriate, or they think you're doing the most, or you're too extra. And, you know, I've been accused of being all those things, doing the most, too extra, not staying in my place. And I think this book speaks to people who will not be shut down by haters or naysayers or people who just want to, quote unquote, play the devil's advocate, whatever that means. Who wants to be the devil's advocate? Why is that a thing? And I feel like this book really speaks to a community of people who, like, you know, I love who I am. It doesn't mean that I don't have areas of improvement, but I'm not going to dull myself down to make other people feel comfortable. So really great book. She talks about all different topics: race realities, ladies first, side effects of digital dating. I'm just reading some of the areas in each chapter. Side effects of insecurity, side effects of individualism, just all kinds of different things. So I encourage you to read this book, get it at your library, or support Amanda, pick it up. Okay. And then my final book is by Elaine Welteroth. Love her. She came to the Bay Area to do her book talk in June, but I was already going on a mini girls trip with my good friends, so I missed that book talk. But I love following Elaine on Instagram. She came to my attention through my daughter when she was subscribing to Teen Vogue, And Elaine was the editor-in-chief, the youngest editor-in-chief, I believe, of Teen Vogue. And she really revamped that magazine, made it more current, made it more relevant. And then she's gone in to do some other things. She's one of the judges on the reboot of Project Runway, which is in its second season. And I think she like directed an episode of Grownish or wrote an episode of Grownish or something like that. And Elaine is a great way also for me to stay connected to my daughter. My daughter is very interested in arts and entertainment, the fashion world, and digital marketing. So having this book, having the contents of this book to discuss is a really nice way for us to, have a deeper understanding of each other, but to connect right where we are and to have this book as a centering piece. So Elaine just talks about, her life and what she's gone through and, different ways that we are told or the message comes to us or we have these experiences that might suggest that we are not enough. But in actuality, we are enough and we need to claim our space and work with what we have, continue to improve, but still be okay with who we are and love ourselves in the meantime. So this is a great book to, give yourself a bold pep talk, to kind of boost your energy, to understand that, things are challenging and complicated for all of us, but it doesn't have to be the only way we operate. We don't have to just see everything from that lens. We can rise at our own pace and be happy with ourselves and not fall into the comparison trap. So great book, super exciting. I've read it once. I might read through it again. More than enough. Easy read, very enjoyable. I suggest you, I love when people check out stuff from the library. I use the library a lot, but some of these books you need to write in, like, you got your little notes or note to self, or you want to put your sticky notes in. And this book and then Amanda's book are definitely books you might want to write in because they're so juicy and on point. So those are the 5 books that have really rocked my year. I have a good friend who's just come out with a book, but I want to interview her about that book and kind of do a little debut with her. So we might talk about that in the new year. She just had a book event last week and she lives in Colorado. So I'm super excited about that. Go, Christy. Moving forward for Wednesday Club, I know today is not Wednesday, but as I explained last week, I have something in San Francisco tomorrow, so I was not going to be available for the live broadcast, but I did not want to skip it, so moved it till Tuesday. Sometimes bold thinkers have to flex. So next week is episode 16, and that's going to be on December 18th, and that's our last episode for 2019. And that episode is going to be about things to leave behind in 2019. So that'll be a fun discussion. Hopefully when people join or when you watch the rebroadcast, you can check it out. And remember, on Instagram Live, this broadcast is available for 24 hours, but you can always go to Facebook, Kanesha Baynard Coaching, to find all the episodes of Wednesday Club, or you can also check them out on my YouTube channel. And you can find all the information on boldlivingtoday.com. Everything's on the website, on the hub. So then we'll take a little break from Wednesday Club, and then we'll resume on Wednesday, January 8th, 2020. And, I'll be welcoming you to the new year and talking a lot about productivity to get us started. I'll have some video segments around the Focus on What Matters guided journal, because it's a great tool to help you get ready for the new year. Talking about what types of planners you should be choosing, different ways to use those planners and make it more customized for yourself so you can be the proper amount of organized when you are customizing your productivity profile, customizing things to your productivity profile and how you work best. So I'll be talking about those topics going into the new year. So thank you, everybody. Let me know books that you're reading, books that are really exciting to you for 2019, or just your all-time favorites. I always love to hear what people are reading. And of course, you can send me a message through boldlivingtoday.com or on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. All the information will be in the video notes, so you can check that out. And of course, there's a survey that goes along with Wednesday Club. So if there's a particular topic you think we should explore, or you want to follow up to a previous episode, just let me know there. And I hope everybody's having a great holiday season. I hope you have downloaded the Bold Living Today resource and holiday guide for 2019. So many good resources there. It's my gift to you. And I made it digital so that we weren't killing trees. So definitely download your copy so you can have it on your mobile device or computer and access it whenever you need it. So many fun resources in that, and that information is also in the video notes. So take care, everybody. I will see you next week on Wednesday for Wednesday Club at 12 p.m. Pacific time. And that's going to be our last episode of 2019. Have a good day, stay bold, and take good care of yourselves. Okay, bye.